All right, now that our output dialog form is made, we can go about showing it. Um, if you remember early, we discussed when events were called. And we said when you press play, first initialize is called, and then startup is called. So startup is where we want to actually display our dialog. So let's look at startup. And also, this is where, if you remember, in one of the earlier parts, we talked about that there was a minor difference between Vixen 2.1 and 2.5, and this is where that difference is. It's a real minor difference. If you see in this startup, it wants back a list form. So it wants us to return a list of forms. Whereas in 2.5, I have a 2.5 plugin here. This is actually the Skull output dialog. This does not require a return value. So if you're making a 2.5 plugin, you don't return a value. If you're making a 2.1 value or plugin, you do have to return a value. Now, I don't know how Vixen uses this list of dialogues, and everything I've seen is you can just send back a empty list, but you do have to send back a list. So basically, to get around that, I do is, and this will be at the end, we'll keep this at the end of our function here. We're just going to return a new list form, and that takes care of the return value. So we need parentheses here. Okay, so basically before we have a return value, all we have to do is create an instance of our output dialog and then show it. And that's as simple as that. So let's call this... one thing real quick also, we do need our output dialog available to the entire plugin. So let's go ahead, just like we did before, and create a global variable. Private. This is of type output dialog. That's what we need our dialog, and we will call this output dialog. Okay, so now we have our global member. We can go back down to startup. We can say this, and then our output dialog. Checking out my cheat sheet here. It's going to be new output dialog. So there, we created an instance of our form. So now we just need to show this out dialog.show. And there we have it. Now, when we might as well cover this in the same spot. When we hit F5 to play our sequence, it will show this dialog. We need to get it to when we hit the stop button, it'll close the dialog. If you remember from the previous one, when you stop it, it calls the shutdown method. So in shutdown, all we have to do is change what's there and take our output dialog object and close it. So that will take care of that. Now we're to the point where we can... I gotta close Vixen so I can build it. the solution. Okay. And let's test it out. Now we're not going to get event values next, or yet. We'll cover that in the next part. And I believe that'll be the last part. I think we're pretty much done. So let's go with our sequence. We hit F5, displays the dialog. We're getting that error because we haven't implemented the event value yet. So I guess we really can't test it at this point.